Okay.
live, laugh.
How's it going, everybody? This is Daniel, and we are joined by the almost longest reigning Firestar women's professional. It's The acronyms throw me off because there's four. Usually there's only three. But the Firestar women's champion, almost long running, second only to Sue Young. That's good company to be involved with. We are joined by Ameera Roze. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, doing great. This is an interview that should have taken place probably 3 months ago. Uh, but
Yeah.
uh, and I apologize for that, but we're super excited. I feel like we have more to talk about now. So, because
Right.
as of late, there's been like a little bit of a shift in your character. So I'm excited to talk about that. But before we start, where can everybody find you on socials? Also, tell us a little bit more about like your gear making. I know that that's something you're starting to do. So we'll lead off with that.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Lil McKizzie. So that's at LILMCCIZZIE. Don't ask me where I got it from. I really don't know. I had it in high school and just kept
Yeah.
it. Um, and as for the gear making, honestly, that started back in 2020. We were all in that pandemic
Uh,
phase. And I was reaching out to gear makers on like how much it would be to get gear made. I had like this template already done, a sketch, and
yeah.
they were like, "Oh yeah, it'd be about 1,000 plus," and I was just like,
Ooh, that's a lot.
"I don't have that money."
No.
So I literally was like, I looked at my mom, was like, "Hey, I got to get some stuff done." So I ended up starting off with making masks because that's what we all were wearing. So I was just like, let me just try to see what I can do. Ended up making masks, and then I was like, let's see if I can actually make my own gear. So I found like this template, and then just started making my gear from there. I went from just making basic gears to actually added on little designs and seeing where I could go from there. So that ended up getting really good like feedback. Everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, your gear looks really good. Like, who did it?" And I'm like, "Hi, it was me. I did that." And they're like, "What?" So yeah. And so the first person I actually did that was not mine was, I think, Cozones. I did like a template, like a small little
Yeah.
tester on him, and he wore that when he went against Jay Lethal.
Wow.
Um I want to say the next official person that I make gear where everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, who is it?" Is Soulfly Many Lows. So any gear that you see him wearing is what I made. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I just been trying to make sure my gear making stuff just looks like TV ready. And
Yeah.
because I had an accident that a lot of people is now finding out about. I had an accident last Monday, which is kind of put me on the shelf. I was just like, why not just allow myself to make other people's gears? And that's what I'm doing now.
Awesome. Well, I've seen enough wrestling in this area to know that there are a lot of you that need new gear. So
Yes.
this is your sign to get new gear, and why not help somebody who's local, and it's good gear too. It's not like it's subpar stuff. Just check out your
Yes.
and see all the stuff there. You can see even kind of down there the picture of you. That's your gear as well. So awesome.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely check that out because I there's definitely a lot of you that you do gear. I'm not going to point the fingers, but you know who you are. Um, but that's awesome. It kind of reminds me of like because I know Bianca Belair makes all of her own gear. So it's kind of
She
cool.
does. She makes her gear, and I think she makes her husband's as well,
Yeah,
like
it's
sometimes. So yeah.
yeah. So it's cool to see. I think the pandemic kind of forced a lot of people to be more resourceful and kind of think about wrestling in a different way. So
Hmm.
really cool to see that. So check that out. Check all of our socials out. Um, so you're kind of at this spot where you're talking about like records being broken with wrestling, but there's got to be a start. So where does your journey with wrestling start? Is it like as a kid when you first saw it, or how does that story go?
It's actually really funny. I love telling this story because, usually people are like, "Oh my gosh, I watched it one day." It
Yeah,
was more so like I used to go to the daycare that my mom worked at. Me and my little brother, he had his group of friends, I had mine.
yeah,
His group of friends were more into like the whole wrestling, bringing the figures, the rings, the belts, all that. So because they were like into it, he was like, "Okay, let me try to figure out what this is." So he ended up watching it one day. I think it was Friday Night SmackDown, and I ended up watching it with him, and I was just like, "This is kind of cool." And so I like to say that I got into it way more than he did,
Yeah.
'cause it was just like, "Okay, I like what I'm seeing, let me kinda look more into it." So I ended up going on YouTube, finding more videos, and I ended up finding the Hardys and Lita, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, they're freaking amazing." And so from there, I pretty much fell in love. I was just like, I like this. I know people are usually asking me, "What do you wanna be when you grow up? Do you wanna be a doctor? Blah, blah, blah." I used to tell them, like, "Yeah, I wanna go be a doctor." Knowing good and well that's not what I wanted to do. But,
Yeah.
you just had to tell somebody something because, at the age everybody's asking you that question. I was like, "Hmm, I guess I wanna be a doctor." But then once I started finding wrestling, I was like, "I think I wanna do that. I think I can see myself doing that." And then from there, it just ended up being on my conscience for the absolute longest until I actually start training.
Do you remember what was on that first episode of SmackDown that you saw, or were some of the characters that
I I do not. It was so long ago. I was in elementary, so I do not remember. Like I want to say I was in 4th grade,
okay,
4th or 5th. So it was a long time ago.
okay, so you
Yeah.
from there you found the Hardys and Lita. What did you like about, like, their characters, what they were doing?
I like their aesthetic. I like the way they carry themselves. As a kid, I just felt like I was an outcast and like I didn't fit in. So seeing that they were totally different from everyone that they were around, I was just like, oh, I can actually relate to that. That's what
Yeah,
drew me in, along with all the flips and stuff. But
yeah,
if you watch me, I'm not a flippy person. So yeah, I was just like, they're cool and I can relate to them.
yeah. So, it's funny you mentioned aesthetic when it comes to the Hardy Boys, and I
Mm.
don't know if we've ever said this on the podcast, but Good Guy, Bad Pants is an inside joke about Jeff, or not Jeff Hardy, but Matt Hardy. I don't know if you've seen him back in the day when he had, like, it was like version 1 Matt Hardy, when he had, like,
Uh-huh.
it looked like he took somebody's, like, rug and put it on his pants and stuff. Uh, just
Uh-huh.
just bad gear, so we would always make the joke, "He's a good guy, but he has bad pants."
But that pants, I
Yeah,
love that.
that's kinda how it snowballed, so it's kind of like when I don't know, I think it hasn't aged well, but I could see, like, as a kid
Mm,
how it would look well, but, like, all of like, Jeff Hardy in himself with, like, the face paint and the dancing and everything, but Matt Hardy,
yeah.
the dorky brother. Um,
Yes.
so who else did you kind of
Also, by the way, I just want to apologize if you hear any rumbling. I'm washing my clothes and I totally forgot that it was going to be loud. So,
it's okay. Yeah,
FYI, I'm sorry, guys. I'm
we've
sorry.
had somebody eat ice cream sandwich throughout the whole episode before, so
Um,
I won't name names, but there's at least 10 people that have probably had worse audio. So my dog is currently barking right now, so I have no room to talk.
oh,
But,
I'm happy mine isn't.
yeah, but, you kinda drawn into it, and you said you became like, more of a fan than your brother. Was that, like, something that you, like, because I know being a wrestling fan, you could, like, people are kinda mean about it. Is that something you kinda kept to yourself, or were you the person that was just all about it wherever you went?
I kept to myself. I didn't know how people were going to react if I was like, hey, I watch wrestling. I'm a fan. I had a couple of friends that knew, but not everybody knew that that's what I wanted to do. So honestly, I kept that to myself all the way up to when I officially went back to Firestar and start training. And I finally made a post. It was like, hey guys, this is what I'm doing, and everything. And everybody's like, yo, that is cool. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, y'all like this?
yeah,
Okay. So
yeah,
yeah. I don't know. I felt like people weren't going to appreciate it as much
yeah,
as I thought they would, but I was definitely shocked. And I think it was better for me if for holding off because it
yeah,
made me appreciate it even more.
yeah, and, like, I feel like we've talked to enough people to where a lot of people don't realize that independent wrestling is a thing. Like,
Yeah.
so the fact that, like, somebody you know could be a wrestler is cool considering, like, oh,
Mhm.
they might have made fun of you if you told them, like, "Oh, I liked The Undertaker back in elementary school, but now you're a wrestler."
Mm.
It's like, "Oh, shit, I didn't even know you could do that." Um,
Right.
so at what point do you decide that, like, that's what is on the horizon for you? Like, how do you decide to make the jump?
So Around my 15th birthday, like closer to when I was turning 16, I was just like, yeah, like this is what I want my future to be. So I ended up doing research, like intense research. Like I literally had a full list of the wrestling schools that was in North Carolina at that time. Firestar was not up there because Firestar didn't start until a little later.
Yeah.
Um, but I ended up looking up different schools around the area, looking at their age limit because I know if you're underage, you actually can't go without a parent's consent. Or some was like, oh no, you can't go until you like 18 or something.
Yeah.
But from there, I was like, okay. I told my dad, I was like, hey, I want to actually do this. Would y'all be okay? I asked my mom and my dad. My mom was kind of like, but my dad was like, yeah, if you find something, just let me know.
Yeah.
And from there, I didn't get to start, but eventually, Kozone, I met him in high school, which is
Yeah.
funny. I met him through his little brother because we both were on the same track team, and
Uh-huh.
then I ended up finding out that Kozone was a wrestler, and I was like, this is cool. So back then I was like this little girl who was very outspoken and, very friendly, whatever. I used to go up to people and talk to them, whatever. Don't do that to me now. But anyways, back then I was just like, okay, cool. Like I want to figure out what he's about because I've never met a wrestler that's outside
Yeah.
of, WWE, TNA at the time. So I ended up reaching out to him, letting him know, like, hey, I want to wrestle, whatever. He's like, that's cool. He invited me to the first ever Firestar show. I remember it like it was yesterday. That show was amazing. And then I just kept going to different shows. And at one point, I ended up meeting a female wrestler. And she was like, yeah, I trained. This is before Firestar had an actual training school. She was
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, I train, blah, blah, blah. I can train you. That never happened, which is okay because I ended up having a different path, which I am very appreciative of.
Uh-huh.
So eventually, Kozone reached out to me, was like, "Hey, I am starting this school. Do you want to try it out?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." This was back in I want to say 20. So I was like a sophomore or junior in college.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, cool, like let me try it out, let me see how it is. So I went for a day, did my bumps and everything, hurt like crazy. If anybody say that bumps don't hurt, they are lying. But it hurt like crazy. I was just like, oh my gosh, but I loved it so much. The only reason why I couldn't continue was because I was in college. I was also in marching band, and that took up majority of my time. Like literally went to school, did my work. After that, went straight to practice up until like 11 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 12. It depends on how well we did.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I like this a lot. Let me just focus on my studies. So I focused on my studies, and there was something that happened to me in college that literally was like, hey, what are you doing? You're getting off the path that you wanted to get on. Get back on track. So I was just like, okay, cool. Let me just get back on track. I reached out to Kozone, was like, hey, I'm done with school. I graduated. I pretty much did what I was supposed to do. Now I'm about to do what I want to do. And
Yeah.
he was like, okay, cool. Go ahead. The school is open. You could be here, blah, blah, blah. We're here for you. So I ended up going in October of 2018, and I was training off and on because, life. And then the year 2020 pandemic is when I was just like, you know what? No, I actually want to like buckle down and be serious about this. And that's when I literally started studying like crazy, going to training, doing one-on-ones, stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I ended up debuting December of 2020.
Okay.
So
So there's a
yeah.
big gap between you, like you're 15, you want to be a wrestler, and then it takes
Yeah.
probably 7, if my math is correct, like 15, you graduated college, like 22, 23 when you actually start. So what is
Yes.
so what is happening in between that time with wrestling? Are you still watching it, or like is it kind of like you grow up and you kind of put that stuff aside?
Now in college, I didn't have time to really watch TV. So whenever I did watch wrestling was like the big pay-per-views. I just remember some of like the WrestleMania moments.
Yeah.
But if I had time to watch it, I would have. I just didn't have time for it.
Okay. So almost 10 years. Like if we're rounding up, technically 7 rounds up to 10. I think I didn't do good at math. But 6 years later, now you're in wrestling.
Mhm.
What was that like? So you've already done the first day, so you know what that's like. Um, what was it like? Like especially with Cozy, he kind of has had the time to kind of figure things out, and Firestar is
Mhm.
set in place. I guess one question is, what is the biggest difference between like the Firestar that you knew when you were there at the first show to when you actually started training there?
No, around that time, he's done shows, but that was his first like big major
Yeah,
promotion. So it was cool seeing him learn how to run the shows at a young age because he was young when he did that.
yeah,
Learning how to run a show at a young age, being able to put it all together, put it in front of us, and be able to showcase a nice show. Like the show was fun.
yeah,
I ended up meeting Chris Masters at one of his shows. I ended up meeting Bobby Lashley at one of his shows. So seeing that he was able to bring in big names like that, I was just
yeah,
like, huh, okay, I see you, Kozo.
yeah,
But yeah, seeing how he went from there and then where he is now, how much he's progressed, I'm just like, I'm so proud of him.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so, so proud of him.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's ever said anything bad about Kozone, but like
All
definitely
right.
the guy that's could be on TV if he wanted to, but he chooses to kind of help
Mm-hmm.
people instead. And um, super excited to see like some of the matches he's been able to have recently with like Kevin Blackwood and like all this stuff where he's getting to kind of show what he's able to do and people are starting to take notice. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but to go back to like training, what was that like first like week or two of training like for you?
That was fun. I ain't gonna lie. Like the first time I went back,
Uh-huh.
I remember it like it was yesterday. Um, Kozone paired me up with small little baby Malachi, Jay
Yeah.
Malachi, the 15-year-old Jay Malachi. He paired me up with him and he was like, all right, teach her how to do wrist locks, blah, blah, blah. At this time, Tim was there helping out as well as White Mike. So they were there helping out as well. So like White Mike came over there to where I was at, and like I was doing the wrist lock like it was nothing. And he looked at Kozan and was like, "Where did you find this girl?" And he was like, "That's one of my friends." Blah blah. He was like, "She's good," and I was like, "Thank you." But yeah, I remember that day vividly. Just doing the wrist locks and stuff with him, and then that's where me and him ended up coming up with this little best friend little gimmick.
Yeah.
But I also remember how I could not roll to save my life. Don't know what it was, but I could not roll to save my life. Cozy would legit tell everybody the story. Like I could not roll for the absolute longest. And then finally I was just like something clicked and I was like, okay, I got it now. But yeah, the first few I want to say months to a couple of years, I was just like, but I had the most fun in my life.
That's
Even
awesome.
though it was hurting and everything. But yeah.
Um, so you're starting to wrestling. At what point do you kind of start to develop a character and like start thinking about not training, but like actually having matches and like who you want to be as a wrestler?
I've had this character before I went back, mainly because, like, again, I went through something in college. I do talk about it a little bit, but I did go through something in college that made me like look at life differently.
Huh.
So I was just like, who would I be if I wasn't myself right now? I was always saying I want to be like this alter ego. I want to be this more powerful person. I want to have more of a voice. I want to be heard. So that's where my character came from. It's just past experiences.
Okay. So it's kind of like if I could be everything, like, because a lot of times people say their character is just them kind of turned up to 11. So would you say
Mhm.
that's kind of like you without like any of the restrictions of like life and like having to worry about what people think, just kind of like unapologetically you?
Yes.
That's awesome. So you started out with that character, or is it?
No, I started out with this Lily character. I honestly, when I look back at it, I would seem shy and timid and very nervous because of course it's my first time being in front of people. Well,
Yeah.
not being in front of people because I perform at marching band, but
Yeah.
like myself being in front of people, I was scared. I was nervous. I didn't want to mess up. I wanted to, get the oohs, the ahs, the cheers, not the boos at that time.
Yeah.
So I was very, there she goes, very timid. Hey, sorry about that.
It's okay.
I knew it was coming. I just knew it was coming.
Yeah. No, it's totally fine.
But
You have to lock my dog out, or he'll stare at me. Bark.
she'll do this every now and then. Hold on. Okay.
All right. Perfect.
That's
So,
my dog, guys. Her name is Nina.
what kind of dog is she?
Give me 1 second. Um, there's a reason why she's barking.
If you need to take care of something, you can.
No. It's fine now.
Okay.
It's fine now.
Okay. Perfect. So this first character, what was it like? What was your first match like when you came out as? Is it you said the Lily character?
Mm-hmm. I was nervous as heck. Honestly, I feel like if you look back at it, you can tell I was nervous. Like backstage, I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. But everybody was like, oh yeah, it's your first match. You're fine. I was nervous as heck. I was very, 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 very green. So the things that I did in the match was kind of like,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the main thing you can notice when you watch it is that I was stupid nervous.
Yeah. Who was it?
Stupid nervous. And my character was just like, hi, I'm here, I
What
guess.
What was your character? Like the awkward, like shy person,
I
or like,
really can't even tell you what it was. I honestly, I don't even think I really had a character. I think I was just out there.
yeah. Who was your
Yeah.
first match against?
My first match, it was me, Ameera Roze against Ella Envy and Samantha Starr.
Okay, so some good people to be in there for your first match.
Yeah.
What was it like as a fan of wrestling, like stepping through the ropes for the first time? Like, was there a part of you that was like, I'm actually doing this?
Yeah, I was just like, oh, it's finally happening.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see what happens next. I was super, super happy.
Awesome.
Scared as heck, but super happy.
Yeah. So what does happen next for you? Like, I guess what is the next step in your career that you would say is like where you finally started to feel like you belonged in wrestling?
Um, I want to say the year that I had my match for AEW, did extra work for WWE, and won that belt, my Firestar belt.
Yeah.
That is the year I was just like, okay. Because honestly, before I even did extra work for AEW, I like to tell people this because I mean, I'm not ashamed of it. I was about to quit.
Yeah.
I just felt like nothing was happening. I felt like I was in this weird, I don't know, it just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And I was just getting very, very frustrated. And then somebody was like, hey, freaking reach out to AEW, see if you could do something for them, have a match, whatever. And I was like, okay, whatever. I ended up reaching out to them New Year's Eve, which is crazy. Reached out to them New Year's Eve, did the whole entire bringing in New Year's thing.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I had this really good feeling. I was like, okay, you know what? Even though I want to give up, you just never know what happens.
Yeah.
So I was ended up being very hopeful. And then something was just like, look at your email. Literally a couple minutes after 12, when the clock changed, I looked at my email and I got that email that was like, you're invited. And I was just like,
That's crazy.
Wait, what? And so that was definitely the start. And then I ended up reaching out to WoW because I know at that time they were doing the tryouts. And I was just like, hey, let me just see if it'll happen. And then I ended up getting an invite for that, but sadly they had to cancel because COVID at that time was just like high in Miami.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to do that, but that would have been the week after I had my AEW performance. So it was just like things kept happening back to back to back. And then, there was a little moment where nothing was happening. And then I think I ended up winning the belt before I did the WWE stuff.
Yeah.
Ended up winning the belt. Did not see that coming. So yeah, that ended up happening. I was just like,
Yeah.
okay. And then ended up getting an email from WWE. It was like, hey, we would like to use you. And then stuff just started happening from there.
Awesome. So to go back a little bit, walk us through what the experience was like for you at AEW.
Nerve wracking. I'm scared because I didn't know like what all would happen being backstage. I'm so used to being backstage at the independent shows. So being somewhere where it's like legit production, like you see the boss, you
Yeah.
see everyone, you see the people that you usually see on TV. I was scared. I was nervous.
Yeah.
So yeah. I was scared. The great thing is I wasn't there by myself. Kozone was there. Caprice was there. Moss was there. Movie was there. It was a few people that was there.
Yeah.
So I wasn't just there by myself. And
Yeah.
everybody was just like, joking around. So it made me feel a little bit better. I ended up talking to some of the talent. It was a great atmosphere.
Yeah. So we've had like conversations with people that have been backstage at AEW, and they have like this moment like, oh, there's Sting, or there's this person. Is there a person that you saw that you, oh crap, this is so and so?
Matt Hardy when he walked in,
Oh, so
because
you
I grew up on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he walked in and then he was like, "Hey," and just kept going. I was like, I literally text my family. I was just like, Matt Hardy just walked by me, and they was like, "Get
Yeah.
pictures." I was like, "No, I'm backstage. What? No, I can't do that." But yeah, when he walked by, I was just like,
Crazy.
there's Matt." And then I saw Daniel Bryan. He walked in. Well, Bryan Danielson. He
Yeah.
walked in. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then CM Punk was there too.
Oh wow.
So I was just like, "Yo, what the heck? This is
Yeah.
crazy."
Yeah. So that is awesome. Like, especially because like you told me, like Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy, those are the people that kind of really drew you in, and now you're working on the same show with him.
Mhm.
What was your match like going into it? Like,
So I went against Tay Conti, and I didn't have that many matches on my belt,
yeah,
and they all knew that. I let them know, like, "Hey, I'm green. I'm just want to be honest with you." So I feel like if I were to go back, my match would be 10 times better than what it was. It was just I was able to work with what I knew, and
yeah,
I was able to give her what I could.
yeah,
But I really do wish I could redo that match.
yeah. Um, do you feel like that helped you, like, kind of realize, like, were there any learning moments from that match?
Um, I want to say the way that I move and like little things that I know I
Yeah,
needed to change. Yeah, I saw little things that I needed to change. But I definitely learned that day that being in front of a big crowd does not faze me. I was just like, okay.
yeah,
I know a lot of people were like, were you nervous? I was like, no, not at all.
that's awesome. Yeah, because like I know some people have like the studio experience, but you got to like have the
Mhm.
full arena. That's pretty awesome. All right. Sorry about that. So,
You're fine.
how is the catering? I know a lot of people have a lot of good things to say.
Catering is so good. I'm not even gonna lie. Catering at AEW is good. Catering at WWE is good. I'm just like, this is the best food I ever had.
What did
It's so good.
what did your plate look like for AEW?
Oof. Man, that was so long ago. I
Is it?
know I had some greens on there, some rice.
Yeah,
I can't remember what meat. I think I had some type of. I want to say I had like a veggie, something veggie,
yeah,
because one of the guys was like, "Hey, this is really good. You need to try it." I was just like, "Okay," and I ate it, and I was like, "Yeah, this is great." But
yeah.
catering is so good,
Do you have a
so
preference?
good.
WWE is better or AEW better?
They're kind of the same.
Interesting. I've heard
Yeah.
both sides of it, but I always like to ask just because it's something you don't really think about. So you go from AEW, and the next big thing is winning the Firestar belt. Walk us through
Mm,
that. Did you know about winning going into it, or is it one of those things where you found out in the ring?
found out. I was just like, oh, because everybody's just like, some people were like, oh, you're winning, you're winning. I'm like, okay, whatever. Because I never want to get too big,
Yeah,
like in the head. I never want to go into something like, oh yeah, I know I'm winning this. I was
yeah.
just like, we will see. And then I ended up winning I think it was the women's rumble.
Uh,
Yeah. And then winning the women's rumble. And I was just like, I don't even think there's footage out there, but my reaction at the end was legit because I was just like, what the heck? I never thought that would have happened.
yeah. And so you win the Rumble. Um, what is what is it like going into the actual like title match? Like,
Like my first match defending it.
so did you win the title in the Rumble?
Hmm.
Okay.
It was for the title.
Okay, perfect. So did they tell you were going over beforehand, or was it like you found out like when it happened?
It was before.
Okay. So how do you go into that match knowing that you're going to be the last one in the ring? Like, how does that change how you prepare or how you?
Oh, I wanted to do everything. I was just like, okay, let me make sure this match is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So I was definitely happy as heck. You can tell with what I did and stuff. Like, yeah, it definitely changed my whole mood.
Was there like a little bit of swagger with it too, where it's just like, oh, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna.
Oh no, it was swagger.
I feel like that's what I would do if I knew I was winning. I would just be like Ric Flair in the ring, even if I never even had any like Ric Flair tendencies. So you win the belt. You still have the belt. How long has it been so far?
Ooh, I need Roberto
Yeah,
to do this because he knows my
yeah,
numbers, but I know I'm about to beat Sadie's record, I believe. I'm about to beat Sadie's, and then I think Sue Young's is not too far behind her.
yeah,
So I think if I keep it till February, I beat Sue's.
yeah.
I
So
believe I just gotta look at the records again, but I
yeah,
know I'm about to beat Sadie. I'm close to beating hers if I haven't already.
yeah. So what has it been like going on this like Roman Reigns-esque reign with this belt? Did you have any idea
Oh,
that's
it's great.
Do you have any idea that's what the plan was when you got it, or is it just kind of like, oh, I still got this thing?
No, I honestly did not know how long I was going to keep that belt. So the fact that I've kept it this
Yeah,
long makes me feel good. It makes me feel like, people believe in me.
awesome.
People appreciate that I'm doing something with the
Yeah.
belt. So yeah.
What are your favorite defenses? What are the favorite matches that you've defended it?
I want to say my favorite match is me and Sadie at Wrestle Revival. Um, that match had a story. And literally almost everybody backstage was like, that was a good match. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know. But that match had a story. Like our build up, um, as people know, like me and Sadie were like the only two female wrestlers at Firestar for like the absolute longest. So
yeah,
she actually helped me out with a whole lot. So the fact that I was able to look up to her and then eventually beat her, it
yeah.
was great. But yeah, that was my favorite match.
Awesome. Who would you like to defend it against? Are there anybody out there that you'd like? I would love to step in the ring with them and defend this title.
Hmm. I kind of do want to wrestle Sue.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah. Just putting that out there. But I do. I've always said that I would like to wrestle Sue because I just love her work in the ring and everything. And I know she was the Firestar Pro Wrestling Women's Champion at one point. So I just want to be able to like get in the ring with her
yeah.
just once and, see what we can do.
Who are some of your favorite like wrestlers? Like, doesn't have to be women, but like, who are some of the ones that like influence you most today? Like, as far as in ring.
Manami Toyota. I tweet about her like every so often. I don't know what it is about her, but I watch a lot of her stuff. I honestly watch a lot of Joshi stuff from like the
Yeah,
80s, 90s, but Manami Toyota is definitely like my top favorite wrestler in
yeah,
general right now.
that's awesome. You hear a lot of people talk about like 90s All Japan is like being this like Eddie kicks to go back and watches it. Like I've watched it, but this is the first time I'm hearing somebody like, oh, Joshi's from the 80s, which it's probably has a lot to do with like the state of women's wrestling and how like inherently flawed it is, where the way that it was
Hmm.
positioned in America for so long to where people maybe don't realize that those are out there. So for those who maybe don't know, who are some good like 80s, 90s wrestlers or matches that would be good to go back and watch?
Um, I have trouble with a lot of their names, but I know Manami. Anybody she wrestles, you ended up going down a rabbit hole because that's what ended up with me. Is like I will watch her stuff, end up going down a big old gigantic rabbit hole, finding different opponents that she went against, and then from there, that's when I end up looking up their stuff. So I just remember Manami's name because
Yeah,
she is just somebody I've been stuck on for like the longest.
yeah,
But just yeah, you'll end up going down a rabbit hole once you end up watching her stuff.
awesome. So definitely going to do that. I recommend everybody else do it because, like I said, like Joshi's getting a lot of appreciation today, but
Hmm.
like ignorantly, I had no idea that like the 80s and 90s it was kind of like a thing. So thanks for sharing that. Um, let's talk about your WWE backstage. How did that come about? Because that was after you won your belt, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I know that happened. Yeah, definitely, because that happened in August. So I just got a text was like, just be on the lookout for an email, and I was like, okay. Ended up looking in my email. It was like, oh yeah, you're invited to WWE on
Yeah,
August. I think it was August 12th, and I was just like, I sat there for a good minute in shock because I never thought that would happen. Like AEW was like, okay, yeah, it shocked the crap out of me, but I
yeah,
never thought I would get something from WWE. So I was just like, okay, let's see. I
yeah,
guess I'm doing something right.
yeah,
So ended up going. It was at Raleigh. Both of them were actually at Raleigh, which is
yeah,
funny. It was at Raleigh, so I kind of knew backstage and everything.
yeah.
Thankfully I wasn't there by myself again. I was there with Brittany Jade. And when we first got there, it was nerve-wracking because, it's WWE. This it's the top of the top when
Yeah.
it comes to like, wrestling.
Mhm.
And we got there, we did everything that we needed to do. Went to catering, had catering, food was great. Went to medical, did what we needed to do, and then just waited around until it was time for me to figure out what we were doing. And then, ended up doing that spot with Ronda Rousey. And to this day, I keep looking back at that like I literally got slammed by Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, that's pretty
And
cool.
I'm just like, that's wow, because not a lot of people can say that.
No, not at all.
But yeah.
She's on the independent, so maybe you can return the favor soon if you're listening.
Yeah.
If
Hey
somebody's
Rhonda.
yeah, um, that would be a pretty cool. Were there anybody backstage similar to AEW that you were like, "Holy crap, this is"?
Oh, my dog is I think Triple H.
Oh, really?
Cause yeah, cause like I don't know, Triple H is like the head honcho.
Yeah,
And so seeing him and he was helping me out and actually talked to me, I was just like, I used to watch you growing up. Like you were a part of my freaking childhood, you and Sean. So yeah, definitely Triple H.
what is a moment with that like? Because you mentioned at the beginning of the year, like, or even like the end of the previous year, you were thinking about quitting, and fast
Mm.
forward 8 months, and you're talking to Triple H backstage at a WWE show. You're on your way to becoming one of the longest reigning Firestar champions, um, and you've also done AEW work. Like, how does that set in for you at that moment? Like, how far you've come?
Honestly, for me, it was like it gave me like a glimpse of what my future could look like if I continue. And I was just like, okay, this is motivation. Let me not just pretty much say I want to quit.
Yeah,
Let me just continue to grind, continue to do what I do. So one day I could potentially be here and end up seeing people who are in the same position that I used to be and, pretty much motivate them.
that's awesome. Um, to kind of talk about that future, like, what are your goals? Like, where do you hope to be in 5 years in this business?
I definitely want to be signed because I'm not getting any younger. I want to be signed. I want to actually one day go to Japan. That's definitely a place that I want to wrestle at. I want to be able to say that I went to Japan, wrestle internationally, definitely win more belts, but more so just make a name for myself within 5 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And who are some names like over like the next 1 year that you'd like to step in the ring with?
Hmm. Who have I been watching hard? There's a girl named Maya's World. She's been doing some cool things. I know she's gonna be at UPW, so there's no telling what can happen out of that.
Yeah,
Um, I know Billy has been killing it. I know she's with AEW, but I definitely want to do some stuff with her. Um, I'm just thinking of people that I've been watching. Hmm. I think those two right now. Those two have caught my eye.
perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited to see Maya next month in Raleigh, and then also Billy Starks. I would love to. That'd be a really cool match. Just another one.
Yeah.
Like if you're listening, Kozone, make it happen. Yeah. Um, this is a question we've recently started asking, and it's a question that, when it comes to female talent, is a little like less fun. But like, I think it's good to kind of showcase how like weird dudes could be, and like tell them not to be. But like, what is the weirdest DM that you've ever gotten?
Do y'all really want to go into this? No, I'm kidding. I literally had to call a dude out, I think either this year or last year because he was being crazy weird. It's
Yeah,
not really my DMs, it's more so in person. So I was at a show doing photography because, I used to do that as well.
yeah,
Um, and he was just like, hey, hey. And I was like, hi. Apparently he knew that I wrestled too.
yeah.
But I was not at that show to wrestle.
Uh-huh.
He came up, he was like, can I get a picture with you? I was like, sure, because why am I going to say no?
Yeah,
But anyways, I took the picture with him. He ended up standing beside me, hugged me tight, and then he in my ear he whispered, "You're so sexy," and I was just like, "Okay, get away from me."
yeah,
So I thought that was the only encounter I would have with this dude. No, he ended up following me on social media and then like DM me and stuff and leaving comments. And if you're creeping me out, I'm not responding. I'm sorry.
yeah,
So I didn't respond. And so I guess he felt some type of way and then ended up saying like this is why so and so is better than you, blah blah blah, or no, you shouldn't, we're not going to support you because you don't reply. And I was just like, okay. So I made a post because not only do I make gear and I do photography, I used to make the resumes or I used to make the what's it called? The booking now flyers. So I literally was promoting that I'll do that, and he was like, "No, don't do it because she doesn't do this, that, and the other." And I was just like, "What?" So at that point, I had enough, and I ended up saying something, and I had so many people defending me because he was coming at me
yeah,
and would not stop. So eventually, a promoter was just like, "He's banned from my show." That's the encounter I had.
yeah,
I'm thankful I've never had like any worse, don't want to have any worse encounters because I know some girls ended up having guys who will either stalk them or, say some outlandish things. That is the only thing that I dealt with. And honestly, I like to keep it that way.
yeah, yeah. I like to bring that up because for some reason, I think that there is like whether it's like a product of like what women's wrestling was like in the early 2000s, where people
Mhm.
think that like you're entitled this access to the people, and they wouldn't do the same thing to guys. And just if you're out there and you ever think about messaging a female, like really any entertainer, anything weird, just don't like, just don't. That's a good
Yeah.
phrase. We've heard some crazy stories. Uh, Definitely would like to never see that guy anywhere near a ring again. Um,
Yes.
but thank you for sharing that. I think it's helpful for others, hopefully. And then kind of like to wrap it up, who are some talent that you think that more people should know about, whether it's North Carolina, East Coast, West Coast?
Who should I say? Uh, the first person, I'm not being biased, but definitely my man, Soulfly Manning Low. Like he's been helping me out a lot. He's been an inspiration, not gonna lie. Cause I watch the stuff that he do. I see the way he's moving. He's staring at me right now. I see like the way he moves and stuff, and I'm just like, you've been in this business for how long? And
Yeah,
it looks like you've been in here for like years. So yeah, he's definitely been an inspiration. I think people should definitely look into him a little bit more, a whole lot more. Another person that I think people should definitely keep an eye out for is Leah Knights, even though I don't like your tail. They should keep an eye out for her because my last match that I had with her, I've had two match by the way. After Burn watched that, it was it was good. She took my move like a champ, so definitely keep an eye out for her. She's gonna do some amazing things.
yeah.
Um, hmm. Grant Watts. I know he was on here, correct?
Uh, no, but he will be eventually.
Like I couldn't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Ye-
Oh, yeah, no, he hasn't been on here yet, but he will be one day.
Yes, definitely Grant Watts. I see him going far.
Yeah,
I tell him all the time, I'm like, I see you going to Japan. And he's like, oh, thank you. I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. I see you going to Japan. So
yeah.
definitely check out him.
The nicest guy, but also like some of the stuff, like that new move he just like put on Facebook the other day. Like it's
Yeah,
just great. He's very talented.
insane. Yeah.
Do you think he's better than
Yeah.
Mandy Lowe? I'm not trying to ruffle any.
Oh, wait. Whoa. Hey, Manny, you think Grant is better than you? Well,
You can tell him that, that Christian was the one that asked that question, even though he's not.
he said Christian asked. Christian asked.
Yeah, that's the one
Oh,
thing he wanted me to ask on this interview.
I
But
got you.
is there anybody else that you'd like to shout out before we wrap it up tonight?
Hmm. Who else? I think that's everyone. Those are the three that like comes to mind just
Yeah,
off the top of my head.
definitely all very special athletes. But this has been
Yeah.
so great. Tell everybody where they can find you again, and also how to get in contact you for gear.
You can follow me on all my socials, Instagram, TikTok, not Snapchat. Whoa, no. Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Lil McKizzy, which is actually down there, so I'm not spelling it out again.
Yeah,
And then for gear, just look on Instagram at GearByMeera. Um, or you could hit me up on my actual Instagram. But that's where I'm posting all my stuff so you can actually see the stuff that I made.
awesome, perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. Excited to see what the future holds for you. And yeah, if you're not familiar with Ameera, check her out. Firestar puts almost everything up on YouTube, so you could watch the
Yes.
whole story. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.